Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman will have to wait for his chance at new powers. He's dropping a plan to ask voters to make him large and in charge come November. The senator who wrote the law on predatory towing just got towed herself, and now she has thoughts on how the law could be improved.
I didn't think we would have to spell it out and be as explicit as we're going to apparently have to be.
The lawyer for a fired whistleblower thanks Denver Public Schools for what they said about him in public. Former principal's attorney says they'll use it in court. And Doug Coe Pride organizers talk about lessons learned and increased security after their event was targeted and survived an attempt to cancel it altogether. Tonight on Next. Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman's attempt to give himself more power and control has failed, at least for the time being. The ballot measure, funded by Kaufman himself and a conservative dark money group, had a launch pretty much like the Hindenburg, and today they announced that they will not be on the ballot in November. They say they'll try again in 2025. For months, Kaufman inexplicably refused to say that he was the guy behind the effort to give himself more power. People who signed the petition to put it on the ballot said that they had been tricked into thinking that this was mainly about term limits. Aurora City Council members, both conservative and liberal, came out united against this. Today, a spokesperson for the Strong Mayor Initiative blamed their opponents for challenging it in court and delaying the process. But their own attorney acknowledged to me that the late timeline of when they started collecting and then turning in signatures put them behind the city's guidelines on how quickly this thing could be turned around and put on the ballot. Hey, it's the end of a work week, so it cannot all be doom and gloom, but it's certainly gloom, Lauren Robinson.
Yes, very gloomy and wet out there this afternoon. Quite a bit cooler than what we're used to seeing. But we have a live look outside over downtown Denver. A very gloomy, wet view here. We're dry for the moment at DIA, but don't expect that to last through the rest of the evening. 61 degrees, pretty muggy out there. We have winds coming in from the north at around 10 miles per hour. But as we take a look at our HG Doppler radar, we do have scattered showers and storms all across the state. You can see them in the high country. They're starting to move out of the western slope, but really taking over the Front Range and even portions of the eastern plains. As we take a closer look into Denver, this is where we're going to continue to watch for these showers through the rest of the evening across the urban corridor. And then further south, we do have some stronger showers and storms warranting a couple of flood warnings. We do have one that's near Salida that's going to last until around 7:30. And then further south, we have a flash flood warning until around 8:30. This is going to be near Trinidad through mostly across the southeastern Colorado border here. And you can see these heavy, widespread showers and storms. Now, as we take a closer look at our flood alerts as we go through the rest of the evening, a good portion of the state, including Denver and most of the I-25 corridor, under a flood watch through. Some expire later tonight, some expire tomorrow morning, and then we have these couple of flash flood warnings as well. So I'll have more details on all of this, plus your 7-day forecast just ahead.
All right, thank you, Lauren. So parts of Colorado continue to recover from June's flooding. Those severe storms that also brought hail and tornadoes. But now the Biden administration has declared a major disaster, certainly was for this homeowner in Highlands Ranch. The Biden declaration opens up federal funding and assistance for Douglas County, Elbert County, El Paso County, Kit Carson, and Lincoln counties. If you're a towing company with 950 complaints to regulators in the last year, maybe one more complaint is not a big deal. Unless perhaps it comes from the state senator who just wrote the law cracking down on predatory towing. Our Steve Steger talked with the legislator who says, she learned through experience her law could be improved.
I saw a sign that I'd never seen before.
The sign in the parking garage Wednesday evening read, "Overnight guest parking by permit only." Here's how Democratic State Senator Julie Gonzalez interpreted it.
No overnight parking. And which was fine because I wasn't there to park overnight.
Parking in that garage for dinner with her best friend at a restaurant in the building, she figured she was good until she returned to her car missing with Wyatt's towing employees standing there.
One of the guys goes, "Yeah, we've got your car." So I said, okay. My paperwork says that Park M initiated the complaint at 8:07 p.m. and my car had been towed by 8:26 p.m. And that doesn't sound like an overnight parking situation to me.
This seems as good a place as any to give you this context. Gonzalez sponsored a bill in 2022 that is now law. The so-called Towing Bill of Rights puts limits on tow companies at private residential properties like this, and it requires towing companies to release a car for a fraction of what the owner owes for the tow, 15% of the total cost, or $60, whichever's lower. Something Gonzalez says wasn't disclosed to her or the people in front of her in line at the Wyatt's Tow Yard off of Brighton Boulevard.
To me, that is committing the sin of lying by omission.
She says she had to ask about it and was told,
in order to avail myself of this installment plan, which I know exists in statute because I wrote it, I was going to have to wait to see if a manager would approve my paperwork. I go, okay, I got time.
This afternoon, an attorney for Wyatt's told us there is a sign at the entrance telling people about the law. He said Wyatt's complies with the law, which the company calls confusing, saying it doesn't specify how towing companies should charge for the remainder of what they're actually owed. He said if the senator wants more notice of the payment plan, she ought to require it in the law.
I didn't think we would have to spell it out and be as explicit as we're going to apparently have to be. So be it.
Gonzalez said she and other lawmakers are already considering tightening this law in 2024's session. One of the things she questioned today is that the company at the bottom of that sign, Park M, the management group that handles permitting in that parking garage, the Wyatt's attorney confirmed to me today that the investment group that owns Wyatt's is connected to Park M. So Gonzalez is calling that a conflict of interest. But Wyatt's attorney says Park M isn't in charge of enforcement in that lot. Like, they're not the ones calling Wyatt's to come and pick up her car. He says that it was the apartment manager who called the tow company in this case. But you can see why Senator Gonzalez is looking at that and saying, like, that's a little fishy if you've got the group that's in charge of permitting also in charge of towing at the same time.
I think everybody understands why tow companies exist, right? People can't just park anywhere, take up space wherever they want, if it's against the rules. You also don't want people getting gouged unreasonably. Right. I had no idea how big of a business towing was until it got attention at the state legislature. Yeah,
and it's a big deal. So you got to think about who's representing them here. The attorney from Brownstein Hyatt is Jason Dunn, the former U.S. attorney in Denver, who's actually representing Wyatt's in this matter. So there's a lot of money involved in this, as you might imagine, at the bottom of this. But you got to remember, too, that, it could be the one thing between someone and eviction. And I think that's kind of that tight line. You've got to pay to get your car out, then you're short $400, can't make your rent payments. And so it's just kind of it all trickles.
It's not a parking ticket. It's like a potential life alterer for people.
Yeah.
All right, Steve Staker, thank you very much. The city of Denver is preparing to write another check with a whole lot of zeros to the protesters targeted in the 2020 social justice protests. In the street protests that followed George Floyd's murder that year, Denver police arrested 320 people just for violating an emergency curfew. They didn't do anything else, just a curfew arrest. The lawsuit over those arrests could cost the city nearly $5 million. Monday, Denver City Council is expected to approve that $4.7 million settlement in a federal class action lawsuit. The protesters, all of them, had their charges dropped by prosecutors, curfew counts. So this would be $4.7 million in settlement money on top of $4 million paid to settle police brutality lawsuits related to the protests. Last year, a jury awarded $14 million to protesters, part of the same class action suit. That money is specifically going to 12 defendants who were hurt by police. The city says it plans to appeal that. So we don't talk about it near daily like we used to, but the flow of migrants keeps coming to Denver from the southern border. It was 91 people yesterday, 48 people so far today. And the city keeps spending money to keep people sheltered, clothed, and fed. It's a $23 million tab to date. The feds are reimbursing some of that, and the largest chunk of federal funding was approved yesterday. About $8.6 million from Homeland Security to try and ease the strain on Denver's resources. It's more than double what Denver's received from the feds up until this point. From the moment that the migrants first started coming in larger groups last December, the city has welcomed more than 15,000 people. Many of them, and there's no precise number, many eventually left for other places. The next step for a fired whistleblower from Denver Public Schools is likely a courtroom. The school board finalized the termination of McAuliffe International principal Kurt Dennis last night. He was fired after speaking to 9 News about concerns with weapons pat-downs. He said he plans to sue the district. The 6-1 vote to fire Dennis was not close and was not a surprise. He was terminated in June after telling 9 News that DPS employees were ordered to do weapons pat-downs without proper training, and that students charged with crimes, including attempted murder, were being put back in class over the objections of school leaders and law enforcement. The district said that interview violated student privacy laws. Then, this month, the board went public with anonymous complaints that McAuliffe improperly used what they called a seclusion room to hold out-of-control students. The only board member to oppose the firing last night, Scott Balderman, said he's concerned that board members' public comments about that investigation in Dennis violated board policy. Dennis's attorney, David Lane, says he's happy to use those other board members' public comments in court.
From the beginning of this process, board members have made public statements concerning personnel matters which I believe violated board policy.
I would like to publicly thank them for all the statements they've made, because it will come back to haunt them. They will have every opportunity to present all their reasons for firing Kurt Dennis to a federal judge and a federal jury, because that's where they're all going to end up.
So that was his attorney, David Lane, preceded by the board member who voted against the firing, Scott Balderman. Lane says he plans to file a federal lawsuit as soon as September 1st. This process could be lengthy. He says several months, several years even. Last night, the board said that the investigation into McAuliffe's seclusion room is complete. The details of that investigation have not been made public. Ma Kang is remembered following her random killing last summer in her neighborhood. She's remembered as a leader in Colorado's immigrant and refugee community. She's remembered as a relentless source of encouragement for the success of people who, like her, fled violence to build a new life here in Colorado. And Ma Kang is remembered through a scholarship for refugees and immigrants here. Next Viewers helped create that scholarship fund last year. And since Wednesday, you've raised nearly $8,000 to keep it going. The Ma Kang Scholarship is awarded to new Coloradans who are pursuing higher education, often with a very specific goal born out of personal experience. I think about the computer science major. She has an idea of how to improve language translation through her work. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to join me and a bunch of other people in donating to the Ma Kang Scholarship. Last year, 22 new Coloradans received those scholarships thanks to your generosity.
Why would we present a festival that portrays violence, sexual misconduct, and all of those things to our own children? It's ludicrous.
Show that conservative community that they're running a family-friendly event and that the queer community deserves a space to be themselves. And environmental justice advocates say a new air quality rule meant to protect Colorado's vulnerable communities does not go far enough. Environmental groups are suing over Colorado's new air quality rules that they say don't do enough to protect the neighborhoods that are most impacted by pollution. These groups, Green Latinos, 350 Colorado, and Earthworks, filed the suit today in Denver District Court. They're challenging Colorado's Air Quality Control Commission over a new rule passed in May. The commission said the new rule would hold polluters to stricter air monitoring requirements in communities of color and low-income areas. Those green groups say the state's only out there monitoring for a limited number of toxins, and that so-called community air monitoring doesn't do enough to track the pollution back to its specific source. So they're looking for judges to force Colorado to do more, to add more types of air pollution to the monitoring, to crack down on big polluters. The state says the current rules already go above and beyond what's required.
We saw a lot of rain out there today, but the other big story, the cooler temperatures. We maxed out at 71 degrees at DIA. Most of the urban corridor only saw those 70s. We did get a little warmer off to the east and southeast where that cool front didn't exactly reach. The high country saw highs in the 60s and 70s, middle 80s out west. Now, these temperatures have cooled down, of course. We're around 61 degrees at DIA, but let's take a look at this 24-hour temperature change map. Most of the front range and eastern plains anywhere between 20 to 30 degrees cooler cooler than we were just this time yesterday. So, of course, with the cooler temperatures, we are going to continue to monitor these rain showers. We have lighter rain showers right now in Denver, but those stronger storms are further south where we have a couple of flash flood warnings in place. You can see these flash flood warnings in purple. They expire at 7:30 and 8:30, but the majority of the state is under a flood watch through tomorrow morning, and this does include Denver and most of the I-25 corridor. And as stronger weather is concerned, we do have a marginal risk for severe weather across southern portions of the I-25 corridor all the way into central portions of the eastern plains.
Conservatives in Douglas County weren't able to get Pride Fest shut down. The organizers are hoping to prove a point to their community this weekend. This weekend, Douglas County Pride Fest will go on as planned, despite efforts to get it canceled. Republican County Commissioner George Teal tried to have Pride Fest banned from the county fairgrounds. County leaders eventually decided to just say that the event could not operate, quote, anything similar to a sexually oriented business. So all this stems from essentially was a wardrobe malfunction at last year's Pride Fest. Drag queen was dancing and a silicone breastplate was exposed. Commissioner Teal and some parents said that the performers were trying to sexualize kids. The co-chair of Dougco Pride Fest says they want to have a safe space for the queer community to celebrate.
We just want to put on a festival for our community and do it in a family-friendly way and one that upholds all of the ordinances and laws and the moral standard of Douglas County. We are parents in this county of children in this county.
Pride Fest has increased its security this year, working with the group Parasol Patrol to keep people safe. They've also increased their screening process for any acts that'll go on at the festival. You know, sometimes life is just so good, you want to break out in song. Our Ann Herbst found somebody who offered a soundtrack in response to our weekly question, what's your good news?
Latin music, Caribbean music is in my body, it's in my hands. Hi, I'm Jen Cordy. I am a professional musician here in Denver. My good news is that I've been offered an opportunity to go stay in Rincon, Puerto Rico, which is where my family is from, like 8 generations back, at least.
I am standing right in front of you to help you realize.
Being invited to go to Puerto Rico, to stay at a friend's place. That's some really cool good news, yeah. I've been wanting to go to Puerto Rico for a while. Didn't feel like I could somehow, or I struggled so hard financially here to survive. Being a full-time musician is not easy. So I felt like the universe just opened the door and it's like, this is where you're supposed to go. My parents is my grandfather with my guitar. We lost my grandfather in 2020 and I sat vigil with him and thought a lot about legacy and life and purpose. He came here from Puerto Rico and didn't speak hardly any English and ended up being the DNC representative for New Mexico. So there's him and my grandma in their little matching outfits. They're super cute.
What do you think Grandpa would think of this?
I think he would want to come with me. I don't know if it will change me. I think it'll bring me closer to me.
I'm just trying to move music through you, yeah.
We will be right back with your Friday feedback. Maybe it is even nice. We shall see next. There's an issue with feedback tonight. It's positive. Mary Stripling writes, everyone on Next. Just want to say how much I appreciate your show. Taking on issues that get glossed over and not covered is what journalism is all about. Okay, sometimes you get one nice one. Then Holly says, your show's my favorite. You're not afraid to go places, say things that make people pay attention to what really goes on in the world. I don't even know what to do with nice.